Katia writes, it's so incredibly amazing that Melina shared her story. And I know many others are super thankful. My question is, what inspired her to go public with her story? It's vulnerable, brave, and inspiring. I really respect that. Thank you, Melina.
First of all, I really, really appreciate those comments. And it makes me happy that other people, obviously I'm not happy that it resonates with people because I don't want people to relate to it necessarily, but that kind of is just a fact of how the sport is. And I'm grateful that people find it helpful and that we're all kind of in it together. But yeah, what inspired me to go public is that, like I said before, it felt like an opportunity. I don't know, I didn't know of any other examples of people who had been public about it while it was happening. I think a lot of climbers have talked about it as in kind of the past tense, which is also super admirable and still relatively recent. I think that not a lot of people have come forward to talk about stuff like that and before like the past few years. But I felt like doing it while it was happening would be impactful because it would be present and more vulnerable, maybe more emotional, but it felt like it could be impactful in a different way. And also I felt like kind of doing something that would chronicle the journey and the recovery would give people, I don't know, I wanted people to be able to see at least stages along the way and see that it was possible, and for accountability for myself to some degree as well. But I got a lot of messages from climbers and all sorts of climbers, tons of people in the community, which made me really grateful that I'd done it. And honestly, from some of the conversations I'd had with climbers before I posted or before I even was super aware that it was a big issue for myself. I remember pretty vividly having a conversation with a young athlete, end of 2021 maybe, and she asked if I'd ever had any issues with an eating disorder. And I said no, partially because I didn't think what I was doing was a super big deal and because I was justifying it, but also because I wasn't ready to talk about it and I didn't want to be defined by it. And I think that was also something that scared me a little bit, the idea that one thing could define me. But I realized that I don't have to let it define me, and I can also own the narrative and disclose what I want to say, and know that it doesn't take away from what I've done in the past, and it doesn't take away from what I'm going to do in the future. And even if I don't do anything else for the rest of my life, that it isn't the only thing that I am.
It's so cool that you are helping others in that way. I'm curious, did talking about it publicly, has it helped you personally?
Yeah, I think that I'm glad that I did it because I got a lot of really supportive feedback, and I think I didn't realize how much I needed it. I'm a very independent person. I like doing things by myself and I like being self-sufficient, but it did really mean a lot getting the types of comments and support that I received from people I didn't even know, from strangers, from friends, from coaches, from family. I think I needed it more than I realized, and I think it was something that had been looming over me for such a long time that it felt therapeutic to tell people. But I don't know, I don't think that it's necessary for everyone who's going through recovery to tell everyone every detail about their life. I'm not saying that that is my recommendation for everyone, because everyone is on their own path, and it's important to do what's going to be comfortable for you and what's going to help with your own personal recovery. But for me, it felt like I could maybe make a difference.
I'm going to read this question from Anna. Anna asks, I'm curious if Melina had anyone bring up her weight/body composition as a concern. I would imagine it's really easy to turn a blind eye as long as the athlete is doing well. Did you have anyone approach you about this?
The people who were the closest to me, I definitely had some concerns, or like the people who noticed it while it was, or who knew me before especially, would express concerns about my mindset around food, or sometimes like how much I weighed, what I looked like. All of that, it felt pretty easy to dismiss because I could justify it, or I could pretend that it wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I look back on it, I don't know. I didn't like it at the time, but looking back, it shows me that a lot of people cared about me, which I'm grateful for now.
Yeah, I'm curious if you have thoughts on this question. This is from Eric. Eric writes, in response to Anna's question, yes, did anyone approach her and voice concerns? Also, does Melina have thoughts on how someone would do this tactfully, bring this up to another athlete?
I think the main things that were helpful were just people showing me that they were there for me. It didn't have to be, I don't know, I think that making sure you don't come across as too accusatory, or I don't know, I think that the people that were the most impactful for me were the ones who listened more than they talked, I guess, which is really hard when someone isn't opening up, but sometimes it just takes time. I think a lot of it is about how you act and the being a good role model and exemplifying behaviors that are very inclusive, as opposed to directly saying something. But that's only from my personal experience.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's super helpful. Yeah, thanks for that. One more question about this. This is from Zachary. What does eating disorder recovery look like for Melina? How does she manage intrusive thoughts about weight? How does she relate to high performance when recovery is a larger priority? Any additional thoughts there?
I think for starters, intrusive thoughts, I know we covered that a bit, but a lot of it is having phrases kind of at the ready to replace the negative thoughts as they come in, and being really proactive. When you have a negative thought, being like, no, I'm eating because I need to be stronger. No, I'm eating because this is how you build muscle. No, I'm eating because if I don't eat this type of food now, then I'm not going to sleep well. I'm not going to recover from my workout. Or just having these thought processes ready and available, because these mantras can be actually really impactful, especially when you start saying them over and over. In terms of high performance, I think sometimes especially in the beginning, it felt a lot like I was sacrificing high performance for mental health and physical health. But what I've come to believe now is that that's not the case at all. And that my performance was being compromised by these limitations I was putting on myself by not fueling my body. And kind of looking at food more as fuel, but also as a source of enjoyment. Like, I think in a lot of ways, your relationship with food, I don't know, mine was really bad, and it kind of felt like the enemy for a long time. It's not like chocolate is bad and vegetables are good. It's like everything has a place in your diet, and eating in a way that brings you joy isn't gonna interfere with competition performance. It isn't gonna interfere with sports in general. It's just, food is just food, and looking at it like that, I think, has been a different and good perspective for me.